Hello. Damn. Thank you. First guy in, first like. How's it going, everybody? Right over here. Just plug my motor. Blue place. Baby. Ba-ba-ba. Downtown. Please don't fall. What's up, everyone? Rights. Brother. Jason. What up? I'm going to have the Tyrant Slayer on here in a second. Let me find his little video he made that was really cool. Show it to you. Very cool people of YouTube. Let's see here. I'm so prepared. I don't understand how I got so prepared. How's everyone doing, man? Christopher, Tom Hanak, Outlaw, Monster Dallas, Monster Dallas, Monster Dallas. Get the hell out of here, bro. That's awesome. Tyrant Slayer Studios. All right. I'm gonna call you in a second. I just want to show these people. I want to show the people your video that you made. So I don't know a lot about Tyrant Slayer Studios. His name is Tim, I believe, and he makes cool videos. And he's an auditor and a patriot, and he's very passionate. Okay, I'll play you his video. Stand by. Play.
Now online.
Yeah, easily over 100. What's your name and your badge number?
So anyway, he made that intro for activismnewsnetwork.com. He's also a member of activismnewsnetwork.com. I'm not sure what state he's out of, maybe the Carolinas or something, but I'm about to give him a call here in a second. And I told him to pick out what he wants to talk about, so we'll go from there. Hope everybody's doing good. Hit the thumbs up if you would be so kind. What else? Let's do this. Becky O, hi. Connecticut, that's right. That's where my wife's from. I should probably remember that. Text messages. Do this. Let's go here. Let's look up you. I'm so professional, let me tell you. T-Y Tyrant Slayer Studios.
Mr. Filax.
Mr. Slayer.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Let's see how the volume is. How's it sound, everybody?
Mic check 1 2. How's everybody hearing me?
Microphone check 1 2 1 2. Tyrant Slayer is on the phone with you. I messed that up, but who really cares?
We got the socialist racketeering nanny police state of Connecticut in the house. Mr. John Filax is so kind and gracious to host us here.
So I always tell people those states are like communist Russia. The New York, New Jersey, even where I'm from, Cleveland. You know, if you work in one city, you have to pay two different city taxes, a state tax, a federal income tax, and then you're another 7.62% for your FICA and Medicare. And then if
Oh
you
yeah.
and then if you're an employer like I was, for every dime of that 7.62% that the employee paid, I had to match it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Connecticut's bad. The only state I can think of that might be worse is California. And you talk taxes. I mean, it's a nightmare out here. You can quote me on this. I believe we have the highest gas tax in the nation. We have some of the highest tax rates and a number of taxed items and services than anywhere else in the country.
I believe it.
Yeah, and the utility companies out here are absolutely just on a runaway monopoly game, in bed with the legislatures and everybody. There's a lot of overcharging going on. One of the things that I think I could touch on real fast is just Eversource, our electric company out here in the state of Connecticut, and how the citizens, one girl in particular I went to high school with, she's resorted to, I think, shutting her main breaker off during the day. And in months leading up to this point, she's shutting everything off in her house, trying to figure out why her bill is going up by hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars a month, and she's using less and less and less electricity. Even doing laundry at her parents' house instead of at her own home to really see if she can manipulate the cost of the bill. And for no explainable reason, and no citizens have any answers yet, no explanation. The bill's like $900 a month, and there's nothing going on in the house. There's no bad coil in the heater. There's no running water pump all day. There's no explanation. So the citizens here in Connecticut have their hands full just with utilities.
Who controls the utilities?
It's Eversource. It was Northeast Utilities was the big wig out
Is
here.
that private or public?
It's getting public funds. It is private. It does receive public funds, and one of the biggest problems we have with it is it's all run by unions. So, for example, if we get a power outage in a winter storm, like an ice storm comes, and we get trees down in Connecticut, there's nobody in Connecticut won't source the jobs to repair the lines and start removing trees with Connecticut entities. We got to wait for somebody to come down from Canada or South Carolina, which sometimes takes a week or more, and there was one storm in particular, I think it was back in 2015, don't quote me on that, but we had some real serious problems up here in mid-October some time ago, and power outages for months on end. I mean, in lines at gas stations, the only gas stations that were open were miles long, but the problem in that storm in particular, and everybody remembers it, it's like a big scab out here in this state, is the guys are just kind of camping out in the parking commuter lots and stuff, drinking beer and eating food for like 2 weeks, and they're getting paid for this shit. And all we were waiting for before any work could get done in this state was some guy like the union rep from South Carolina to show up and go, "Okay, boys, let's get to work." And then they start actually putting the power back on and removing trees and stuff. So it's out of control here in many different areas, and just living day-to-day life is extremely expensive and aggravating here in this state.
Are you from there?
Yeah, I've been born and raised here in Connecticut. I love the state. New England is really nice, and believe it or not, it's one of the safest places to be in the nation. We're on a bunch of bedrock here, so as far as earthquakes go and stuff like that, we're pretty safe in contrast to other areas of the country. It's a very scenic and picturesque place to live. Come the fall seasons and even winter, the snow and stuff, you can really, if you're a photographer, New England is a really nice place to be. And there's a lot of nice historical quaint areas scattered throughout the state. It's just, unfortunately, since I've been alive, everything's gone really downhill. And my father's generation, it used to be even nicer here, but all of that stuff's gone now. And the government is just, it's been under, I hate to kind of, pinpoint one side and say it's been under Democrat control for for as long as I've been alive. But it really has been in the hands of one-sided politics.
Let me ask you. So let me ask: if it was run by Republicans, what would be different?
To be honest, I think Republicans and Democrats in this state are essentially the same, which is a huge problem. But fiscally and economically, I know things would be a little better. I think the size of the government here in the state would be much smaller and run much more efficiently. And
so slightly less socialist.
Yeah, you got it. Slightly less socialist, but still screwing the people. Either way you look at it, they're just going to get screwed less harder. They won't go in as deep.
The states up in that part of the country are crazy. They are comparable to California.
New York has a serious heavy hand in this state. Even so much so, like you have New York citizens that own properties here in Connecticut, but they don't reside here for the length of time that it requires them to pay property taxes. So they own all sorts of properties here. They don't pay any property taxes on them. And then they come down and they get into the town councils up in like northwestern Connecticut, up in the Torrington County, Winstead areas, and they'll shut down a bar if they don't want a bar opened up. Like one story, for example, I was going to touch on is a couple years ago after I moved out of Winstead, a bar had opened up right around Main Street area, right? It's a nice historical quaint area, and the folks from New York found a way to shut that down after everything was approved and all that, and all these people were out there just trying to fight to keep the doors open, and people from New York are telling Connecticut citizens what they can and cannot do.
That's funny you say that, because Cleveland was the same way. And then when I moved to Florida and I went to open my restaurant, it was all right, first and last month's deposit, and you can move in. There was no Congress I had to talk to. There was no procedure, protocol. It took 16 weeks to get through. It was, I paid the landlord the money and I moved in and opened a restaurant, ordered some food, and hired employees. The difference in the culture between here and Florida, I'm not saying, because you have your major cities, like you said, that are run by extreme leftists, who everything you got to get permission to do anything, fish, walk, talk, anything. But when you get towards the center of the state, it's like, oh, we have a closed down restaurant here. You want to open it up first, last months and get in here. So that's more the type of freedom that should be. And the taxes are just outlandish. Didn't the founders revolt for like 1 million times less than what's going on now?
Yeah, well, I often say this country, we the people once went to war over a breakfast drink. Let's bring it back to the Sons of Liberty and the Boston Tea Party. The government's talking about tax and tea, and how did we respond? We grabbed pitchforks, we grabbed torches, we grabbed, muzzle loaders, black powder rifles and stuff, threw our tea in the river, and we went knocking on the doors of these people and said, "You want to tax what?" And we took care of business. And now it's like we're totally being violated is an understatement. Like there's not a word that carries enough weight to, express what is happening to the people and how. Like we're just so passive.
They don't see it. They're not looking at it. It's not shown to them. How are they going to know what we're saying?
Right. Well, that brings me to a question I have for you. Like, where do you get your truth? How do you keep up? How would, if you were going to try and grab someone who's felt disenfranchised and capture their interest and inspire them and keep them here to learn, how would you recommend to them to go about gathering information so that they can form their own conclusions and kind of get on the same page as their fellow citizens?
How would I tell them to go about gathering information? Well, the thing is, the internet, everything's there on the internet, but all the bad stuff's there too. So you have to have a filter of your own. You have to understand, like if you see something, you're like, oh my God, really? Oh my God. Now you got to check like 4, 5, 6 more different sources. And then you got to take the whole of what everybody says and form your own opinion. Because, I know for a fact that there is no law that states Americans living and working in the United States have to pay a federal income tax. I know this to be a fact 100%. It's indisputable. No one can show me the law. It doesn't exist, period. If it does exist, all you have to do is show it and you can make hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, think about that. The IRS been around for how long? Doing this for how long? To how many people? SWAT teaming people when no law exists. And where's the media? When has the media ever talked about this and proven it wrong?
That's correct. I remember being much younger and hearing about this, and I'm sure some of the viewers here, and even you, John, you remember on occasion celebrities. For example, Wesley Snipes, I think, was one of the guys that got bagged for this. Now, every once in a while, somebody has the courage to go, you know what, and say and conclude exactly what you've just stated here, and try to stand up for themselves. But because they're doing it alone, they fail every time, because the power of the IRS and the federal government is...
Most people fail, but some people have succeeded.
And we just never hear about it.
Nah, you're never going to hear them on TV, no. Tom Cryer beat the IRS. Joe Bannister, who was an IRS agent, fought them and won with their own laws.
We ought to get that. We ought to try to seek them out and try to get interviews on ANN. I mean, because that's real education right there. Let's talk to these gentlemen and find out how they fought the IRS. And, did they need an endless barrel of resources, or were they able to do this right out of the basement of their own home, just looking in the law books and looking up tax code?
Bannister was an IRS agent. Tom Cryer was a lawyer.
Yeah.
Well, so they had an advantage, but the thing is, I don't know what the thing is. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Taxation without representation is theft. Now, I have a bone with the government in the sense that if you're 15 years old and you're in high school, or 16 and you got a job, you're paying taxes. You're paying into your Social Security. You're paying that FICA. You're paying that Medicare. You're paying state tax. You're paying federal tax. You don't even get to vote. So isn't that literally, by the letter of the definitions, taxation without representation, quote unquote? And isn't that a crime?
You're saying as a minor?
Yeah. I mean, if you're working and you're paying taxes and you're under the age of 18, under the age of voting, and you're paying taxes, you don't have any representation in the government. And this, it's taking your money and doing whatever it wants with the fruit of your labor.
They're just going to say your guardians, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean?
Well, then the guardians should be paying taxes. You can't tax somebody. Taxation without representation is theft. So, I mean, I was talking about that with a neighbor of mine. He considers himself an anarchist, but I see him more as like a passive-aggressive libertarian. And he brought that up, and I thought it was such an incredible point, because although I've had the thought, it's been so far in the back burner with everything else going on, but I think it's a very relevant argument today, given how out of control this state is. I did touch on a list of new tax proposals and things that the state of Connecticut has thrown out in the last 3 weeks. These guys have been spending all the federal funds that come down from the federal government for COVID relief. Like you wouldn't believe, I think we spent close to $6 billion in the month of June alone. And none of this stuff is actually going to help any of the citizens or facilitate more resources at any of the public hospitals that they're laundering this money through. It's gone over to the Department of Motor Vehicles, which I call the Department of Mexican Voters, not because I'm racist, but because they register illegal immigrants to vote there. And they spend a lot of money on doing that. And the last time I went to the DMV, I'm just trying to update a license, or maybe I was handling a registration. I almost got arrested because I'm asking questions.
About what?
Yeah, so I hate the DMV.
I almost got arrested at the DMV once too.
Well, good minds think alike. It's not the good people. It's the people working in the DMV. The attitude of state and union employees in Connecticut is such that you could walk by and say hello and be handing out gold bricks. These people don't even make eye contact with you. It's like you don't even exist. They're so smug, and they're looking down their noses. They got this arrogant attitude.
You're bothering them.
Yeah, you're just such an inconvenience. But it's just another peon taxpayer. I wonder what he's got to say today.
Well, do they know that we're coming there under duress?
Right, exactly. That's what I mean. Now, I think the DMV is not an elected authority. It has no authority. It's not even a...
Right. Let me tell you something about that real quick, because it seems like they've just been granted extrajudicial authority. Because I was in a court case once. I was in the audience waiting my turn, and the one guy pled his case about a car accident, right? The judge rules in favor of the guy. The other guy says, well, the DMV said this. And the judge throws her hands up and says, we have nothing to do with the DMV. How in the world is that possible?
Exactly.
So the DMV is what? Its own entity, private entity, basically?
DCF is much in the same.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's...
So the DMV blames the one guy. The judge rules in favor of the other, and they just throw their hands up. What in the world? How are you protecting these people?
That's a huge mammoth of a problem. They're not protecting anyone. It's all about exploitation and maintaining the revenue streams.
Extortion.
From this big trifecta or circle of corrupt entities in bed with the state and the unions that delegate all of it. I don't even know how we would begin to try to tackle something like that, other than touching on what you had mentioned the day that you went live with Joe Cool. Yeah, you got to start local, man. It all starts at home. You got your house in order, and you got the means to be actively engaged to the point where you're a citizen fighting for change, and you got, the wagon circling around you like we have here with ANN, like you have here on John Filax, your channel here. We start at home, and then once we get our bearings, boom, we run for local office, man. We start at town council, we get up into the state levels, and we keep going all the way to the hill, man, because it's not going to stop, and we're going to be in an uphill battle for a long, long time. This is not something that we're ever going to be able to accomplish in our lifetimes, man. It's going to take our kids, and it's indicative of us. It's incumbent upon us to implore our children and encourage our children and encourage our viewers and fellow listeners to do the same thing and to get engaged and to share this information and help keep each other up to date on it, so that we can arm ourselves with everything that we've got to expose the corruption.
I hear you. Expose corruption. Go on. Finish that thought.
Expose the corruption, find and expose the financial and economic redundancies within all the systems, and campaign on getting rid of them, and campaign on real numbers. Like, everybody runs in a campaign like, oh, well, if you elect me, no new taxes, or this won't be this way anymore. But no one can ever tell you how they're going to execute their plan. As auditors,
that's what I was just about to say. Like, let's get into the logistics of it.
Yeah, as auditors, we have an abundance of inside information. We know what the states or the towns are investing in as far as like foreclosed properties. Are they buying private properties? Where is the money going? What's the town and the state spending its money on? How many employees are there? How many offices are redundant, and how many employees do they contain? How much money annually do we spend on all of this? How much is insurance?
What do you do with that info?
We get a final number, and we figure out where we can actually cut stuff, and we can explain exactly what we're cutting, what it will save, what that money would go to.
So your angle's a financial angle.
Economics, man, it's huge.
Right.
It's I think one of the greatest elements of this presidency, if nothing else, is the economic growth that this country has seen.
So that little platform you just mentioned, and get that info and see where you can cut the fat and trim all the waste. I believe if you could find 100 people to agree with your platform and get at least 25% of them to go to every single council meeting, bring it up until it gets changed, that's the strategy. For me, it would be something like I used to go to my tiny city council meeting in the tiny city in Florida and try to get the Patriot Act repealed. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's awesome. What a noble cause.
And they looked at me like, who the F is this guy? So and I would crash like IRS agents were having like a Q&A session down at a city commission. I would roll in there with a camera. This is before the internet.
Yeah, wow, that's awesome, man.
So
You're an OG.
yeah, I guess. But then that's what I really get. You're just doing this for clicks, dude.
No, you're not. You're
No,
down
I'm
for the
not.
cause.
I mean, I'm trying to make good content now, and I'm trying to do clicks, and I'm trying to get paid for all this stuff I've learned over the years. But so what?
Sure.
And I'm only looking to make enough to get by in life. I'm not looking to stack on stack on stack. You know what I mean?
Right.
All right. So, what keeps you in Connecticut? How about that?
Family mostly, but it's just I want to save. You make a lot of money in Connecticut, despite the cost of living and everything being higher. You make a lot of money out here, so if I could make a killing out here, or enough to move to a state like, say, Florida, to contrast it, for example, the cost of living is lower, but you make less. I would save my pennies up here and invest in something that would be cost effective and much cheaper in contrast. And then get out there and settle in somewhere else once I have the security of what I could save up here,
What profession are you in, or were you in?
I've been doing antique furniture and carpentry for about 20 years now. I used to work at a kennel as a kid. I've been working since I was about 11 years old.
You build antique furniture?
I refinish it. I do hand stripping, lacquer finishes. I could throw down varnishes. I could build you a table.
You flipping stuff too?
Do I do what?
Furniture flipping? Furniture
flipping? No, not so much. I don't sell furniture or auction anything like that. But I do go to a lot of, I'll buy stuff at auctions, and I have a huge antique collection. But carpentry carried me through life pretty much, aside from the furniture. And I opened and operated TMR Construction. It's been very successful. And then when COVID hit this year, like, all of my projects came to a dead halt. Everybody was paranoid about me even working outside of their house, never mind going in and doing a remod or something to that effect. So being stagnant and dead in the water and having 5 kids here, I was like, well, shit. We're burning through, just paying bills and stuff.
5 kids? We're
going broke. So
5 kids? You have 5 kids?
Yes, sir. Yep. My daughter is 12. She was my first. She's the only granddaughter out of 14 grandchildren between my siblings and I. So she is literally the princess, and she loves that.
Is that your oldest or youngest, or in between?
That's my oldest. Yeah, my oldest is turning 12 in December. At the end
of
December.
You have 5 kids, 12 and under?
Yeah, actually, wait till you hear the ages of the 4 boys I got here in the house.
Tell me they're quadruplets.
Twins. We got hammered with twins my first time around. My wife and I. And we named them after the Kennedy brothers. All the boys are named after the Kennedys, except with the exception of Ted Kennedy, because he was a black sheep trader, piece of shit. But that's another story. But the twins, Jack Raymond and Robert Michael, they're 6. They just turned 6. They have different birthdays, which is kind of unique. Jack Raymond was born on September the 28th at 10:04, and then, and my wife made light work of him. I was like, yes, this is finally going to be over, because we were up for like 27 hours or something. It was an incredible labor. And then it was like 4 hours later that Robert was like, oh, okay, fine, I'll come out now. Like, he had all this space in there after his brother got out. He's like, oh, this is nice. And he just wanted to bake a little longer. So he didn't come out until after 2 in the morning. So he's got a different birthday, which
hilarious.
is September 29th. Yeah. And then Patrick Liam was born just over a year later. He's turning 5 in January. And the youngest, William Thomas Fitzgerald, just turned 3 this month, actually, or last month, actually. So yeah, we got our hands full.
Oh.
We got 3-year-olds.
Why the Kennedys? Do you like the Kennedys a lot?
Say that once more.
So why the Kennedys?
John Kennedy was the first Catholic elected president. I'm a big history guy. I'm sure, like many Americans out there, I still believe there was a conspiracy behind his death.
Absolutely.
I believe Lee Harvey Oswald was absolutely a patsy.
Sure.
I even apply that to Osama bin Laden in regards to 9/11.
Absolutely. Tim Osman.
Yeah, you got it. Now, yeah, that's right. See, I love you very much in the sense that you're well informed and you're polite and you're fair. You give everybody a fair shake, and you're really trying to make a difference just by sharing information and showing people how you behave during the course of your day when you encounter state officials and law enforcement and things like that. I think you're doing an outstanding job, and the country needs 10 million more citizens like you.
What did we say before Bin Laden?
Yeah, he was a patsy. He's a patsy.
Oh.
Just
let
like
me ask
Harvey
you.
Oswald and the Kennedys.
Let me ask you real quick. Have you ever seen a movie called Executive Action?
Was it a 90s movie?
No, it was actually either early 80s or late 70s, but there's a lot of familiar people. I don't know how old you are, but there's a lot of familiar people in there, and I believe the way it's written in that movie is how it went down.
Yeah, right on. I will definitely look into
it. And it's a good movie too.
So John Kennedy being the first Catholic elected president, I'll just try to give you my synopsis as fast as I can. Because I'm a huge Kennedy collector. I even have the original pamphlet, his campaign pamphlet, and it's signed by the journalist who did the first debate. I got an autographed pamphlet. I got a huge Kennedy collection. Is that a silver one? Oh,
you're watching.
Yeah, oh yeah. I just picked up a nice silver bicentennial version yesterday. It's only 40%. The older, oh shit. A magician too. That's really nice, man. I got some props myself. I almost went to magician school when I was young.
Oh, really?
Incredible. So John Kennedy's the first Catholic elected president. I'm a Knight of Columbus. I'm a Catholic. I'm 38 years old.
You're a Knight of Columbus?
Yes, sir.
What does that mean?
It's a fraternal Catholic organization, and it's basically based on 4 degrees. The degrees are as follows in this order: charity, unity, fraternity, and patriotism. And
so nothing like the Masons.
No, it is not a secret society. Our ceremonies and proceedings and receiving our degrees of knighthood are held in secret, but we are a very wide open, charitable, fraternal Catholic organization. We help people in the community. We take care of the community. We pick up the slack where the town is abandoning a property. We go and cut that. If the police department needs vests for canines, we'll raise money for that. If your house is burnt down, we'll raise money for you. If you've got cancer and you need help paying your bills,
back to the Kennedys.
People. Yeah, so Kennedy, he's essentially through that my fraternal brother. And after I became a knight, after 9/11, I really started getting into history more than ever. And I learned a lot about John Kennedy and Robert Kennedy, the civil rights movement of the 60s, and all of that era. And what I found was my conclusion about what happened in that assassination. And it's in my best estimations that John Kennedy was killed by the financial oligarchy that now runs this country and has since November 22nd hijacked our government at its highest level of office. It was when George Bush Sr. and Nixon and all of these same corrupt entities that are still in government today took the helm over there. And I feel like, John Kennedy was picked, just like Barack Obama, if you will, was picked by this establishment to be the puppet. And they thought they could manipulate John Kennedy with sex. They figured, oh, he's a sex maniac. He's going to cheat on his wife. We'll get some dirt on him. But, he'll do whatever we say. His father's got the Nazi bootlegger ties from back in the day. Joseph P's not, a shady guy. We can manipulate him. And at first, I think John was vulnerable to that. His real name's Jack, by the way, but publicly is John Kennedy. And at some point, he found like a personal sense of himself and decided, F this. I'm really going to do something for the country and for the people of this country because that's what I'm here to do. And the moment he did that, the entire system started working against him, much like Donald Trump. And I believe elements of the Central Intelligence Agency were involved in the murder or covering it up or planning it. I believe bankers had an interest in it. The Cuban Mafia.
What about Gerald? The guy who replaced him, was it Gerald Ford? No.
The racist Lyndon Baines Johnson.
Yeah.
And now think about that unto itself. Like, one of the points I bring up about Lyndon Baines Johnson is, here you have a man from Texas who's worked his entire life to get to the helm, to get to the top of the hill and be a sitting president in the United States of America. And after the assassination, where he finishes out the rest of Kennedy's first term, he decides that he's not even going to accept the nomination to be president. Like, he no longer wants anything to do with the chair.
But right away, all the things that Kennedy wasn't willing to do, Johnson put into action, no?
Oh, yes, he did. But see, those are the puppet masters telling Johnson what to do. And one of the most terrifying things was, John Kennedy had written a civil rights bill on, I think, at least 2 occasions, and the entire body of government voted it down. The entire Democrat Party voted John Kennedy's civil rights bill down. And then after he was killed, they rewrote it, took all the good stuff out of it, and put all this garbage in it that's essentially kept the minorities in this country down, right where they have been, and dependent upon unreliable systems and services that just exacerbate our overall problem. I think since 1968 and 2020, we're up in the trillions of dollars we've spent in the war on poverty and all of these things that were written in way back when, and it's gotten worse. There's more poor people now.
Operation Northwoods also happened on his watch, right?
Operation Northwoods, yes. There's a whole, on his watch, but it wasn't his operation.
No.
Now, here's what's screwed up. If you look in a history book, they'll try to convey that, the Bay of Pigs was John Kennedy's fault. They'll try to convince the public that John Kennedy put these troops in Vietnam and expanded the war.
That was Johnson.
Yeah, that was Johnson. And even what we had in Vietnam at the time that Kennedy took the seat, all of that stuff was already set up with the Eisenhower administration, who Richard Nixon, also worked within. Nixon, during the Eisenhower administration, set up all of the connections between the federal government and the Cuban Mafia, and was engaged down there in Cuba, with the Central Intelligence Agency, setting up Track 1, Track 2, and Bay of Pigs, and that whole fiasco. And when John Kennedy took the helm, Eisenhower didn't brief him on that. The CIA didn't brief him on that. Nixon never said anything about that. And when it blew up in his face, he was pissed. He was livid. He was like, I believe the quote was, he called Richard Nixon from the White House. He's like, "You're a 2-bit grocery clerk from Whittier, California. You piece of shit there. Never briefed me on any of this." Yeah. And because he's in public and in the chair, he's got to take the blame for that. He fired Allen Dulles, the head of the CIA, and he was quoted 3 weeks before he was killed saying, "I'll splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces and scatter it into the winds." And he intended on doing that. He signed Executive Order 11110, which began the auditing and the abolishment of the private Federal Reserve Bank, which would essentially take our money, the people's money, and our monetary policies, and put them back under the house of our very own Treasury, which would be, handled and maintained by the people we elect to represent us, instead of a bunch of private bankers sitting around a round table and having little closed door meetings with what used to be our representatives. So right. He was trying to do a lot of real things. He was for real civil rights reform. He was for real people's power. He was trimming down the size of government. He wanted us out of the wars. He was trying to pull our troops out of Vietnam and do the opposite of what the military-industrial complex and the George Bushes of the world needed for their money,
So let's do a few more minutes because I'm hungry.
Yes.
And have you seen Umbrella Academy on Netflix?
I've heard of it, but I have not seen it yet. No.
Well, you should watch it because not only is it amazing, the second season is based in Dallas around the time of the Kennedy assassination.
Oh, no kidding. Then I'm definitely going to have to check that out.
So, outside of that, let's do 5 more minutes. whatever you want to talk about, ask me, whatever. Let me plug your YouTube channel. First of all, we're both on activismnewsnetwork.com. Secondly, his YouTube channel is called Tyrant Slayer Studios. If you'd be so kind to subscribe and do a closing thought, my man, and we'll do this again another time.
I'd like to just let everybody know, come December, maybe towards closer to the tail end of this month, I'm going to be handing out a bunch of Rokus. I have a bunch of live streams coming up. I've got some great interviews coming up. There's a now, I think she's 44-year-old woman who was almost murdered by her ex, and she's been stalked by this man for 11 years, and it seems the state of Connecticut and other entities outside of the state have made it possible for her ex to continue tracking her down and finding her. He's attempted to strangle her and things of that nature. She's going to do an interview under anonymity and provide me with police reports and actual tangible evidence that proves that the state is totally putting this woman and her young daughter in danger, and has been for the last 11 years. She needs some help, so I'm going to try to circle the wagons for her. If the listeners haven't heard of the undercover epicenter nurse, Miss Erin Marie Olszewski, I would recommend that you guys head over to my channel, check out her videos. She's putting in her due diligence all over the nation, trying to get our kids out of masks, referring to real peer-reviewed, real-world application peer-reviewed studies that indicate this is all a very negative thing for our kids in schools. She's trying to at least get the kids in schools out from behind those face diapers that essentially carry bacteria and viruses and hold them over our airwaves. I've got a local auditor out here in the state of Connecticut. His name's Impact Audits. Don't quote me on that. I'll have some information up.
That sounds right.
In my community section. He was just recently charged with a $3,000 citation for not wearing a mask in his own studio out in the capital city of Hartford, here in the socialist racketeering nanny police state of Connecticut. So I'm trying to get him on the horn and talk about what's just recently happened to him. I'm just getting news of that over the wires, if you will, as of this morning. But yeah, doing a lot of giveaways. We'll be giving away maybe at least a half dozen Rokus. We're going to be giving away a half dozen copies of these books. We got some great promo videos coming out. John Filax is going to be able to share those with you guys too. And like you said, if you haven't hit us up on ANN yet, you can head on over to activismnewsnetwork.com. Show us some love. So subscribe.
Yes. So when you're gonna give away Rokus?
Yeah, I'm going to give away half dozen Rokus between tail end of November and leading up to Christmas. I got the Roku Premier 4K HDR device. It comes with a little remote.
So you heard that, people. You want a free Roku? Go to Tyrant Slayer Studios. Not only you get to watch all his videos and his content, you get a chance to win a Roku. I haven't given anything out but a ring and a T-shirt so far. I have a lot of stuff to give away too, man. I should start doing that stuff.
We want you folks to join us on ANN, and Roku is a great way to do it. There's a number of other great apps you can download on it and incorporate into your lives. But the primary one being ANN, our channel. You can find us there. And if giving away these Rokus encourages you to come and join us and gets you talking to your neighbors and friends, well, that's what I'm going to do for you. We'd be happy to have you over there, and I'd be happy to give these away. I'm going to be doing these giveaways during the live streams, so please hit that notification bell, set the alerts to all, and that way there you don't miss a beat. You'll know exactly when I'm going live or when I'm premiering, and you just engage in that live chat, and your name will be in the drawing.
All right, brother. Tyrant Slayer Studios. I'm John Felix.
Oh, by the way, before we go, I got to say, that time that we were, I can't remember what the live stream was, but we were all on a big panel, and you were just, your frame, while you're waiting to talk or you're listening to us, you were so busy and so funny in your frame, like doing walk-bys and playing.
Yeah, I can't sit still. I can't sit still while everyone's talking. If I'm not talking, I'm moving. Huh?
I started making a montage for you. I've been cutting all the funny stuff out of the frame and making a video.
Oh, that's awesome, dude.
I might have it done tonight, but it'll definitely be done this week, if not today or tonight.
I should live a few more years, so take your time. Thanks for joining me, dude, and we can do this again. And if maybe some big topic pops up or something cool we want to talk about, let's do this again.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. You guys have a wonderful day.
Take it easy, brother.
All right,
see you. There you go, Tyrant Slayer Studios. Yeah, holy comments. Thanks everyone for showing up here. I muchas gracias you. Yeah. So you see me looking at you, but I'm like staring at a little piece of plastic. So it's not as emotional. Because if you were here, I would just go, oh yeah. Come to me, papi. Come to me, papi chulo. Let me give you a little kiss right there under the jawbone. A little nibble, little yum 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 yum. Just a little num 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 num. Oh Lord. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. Peace, tranquility. Subscribe to Tyrant Slayer Studios and ActivismNewsNetwork.com if you'd be so kind. I think there's a 3-day free trial on that. And it's going to be uncut. YouTube can't shut it down. They can't take our videos down. It's wide open. If there's cussing, there's cussing. If there isn't, there isn't. I don't think we can do nudity or anything like that. But if there's shootings, whatever it is, it's on there. So check it out. Check it out. Right here, I'm going to give you a little nibble. A little nibble. Right there. A little nibble.